Entitled brother kicks me out of the cabin I paid for. Then his card declines. The first thing my older brother, Connor, said when he tossed my duffel bag onto the hardwood floor of the Aspen cabin was, "You're on the couch, buddy. Freeloaders don't get memory foam." He said it with that effortless, golden boy smile, loud enough for our parents and our aunt and uncle to hear over the crackling of the massive stone fireplace. A few conversations instantly died. My mother paused while pouring herself a glass of wine, glanced at me, and then offered a soft, placating smile as if the humiliation were just a harmless sibling joke. "Family comes first, Marcus," she said, turning back toward Connor with glowing admiration. "We make it work." I had spent 4 months arranging this winter getaway. I had negotiated the rental of the 4-bedroom luxury ski-in/ski-out cabin, coordinated the dates with everyone's schedules, and placed my own credit card down for the entire $15,000 reservation. Yet, no one standing in that opulent, cedar-scented living room knew the truth. I had wanted the week to feel like a seamless gift, a rare opportunity for our family to be together without the usual stress of money. Connor believed my silence made me powerless. He leaned against the granite kitchen island, swirling his bourbon, wearing the satisfied expression he always adopted when he thought he had successfully put me in my place. I looked at my duffel bag sitting on the rug, then at the pull-out sofa, and finally at the people waiting to see whether I would defend myself. For years I had explained, forgiven, and paid without asking for credit. 3 months earlier, when my mother mentioned how much she missed our childhood ski trips, I quietly booked the Aspen cabin. I didn't announce the price tag. I simply texted the itinerary to the family group chat, stating that the accommodations were secured. Connor had replied with a thumbs-up emoji. 2 hours later, he sent a separate message to the extended family. "Just used my year-end bonus to book us an incredible cabin in Aspen for the holidays. Mom deserves the best." Relatives showered him with praise. Mom sent a string of crying happy emojis. I stared at my phone screen in my office that day, feeling the familiar, hollow ache in my chest, wondering why it still devastated me to watch Connor receive a standing ovation for my labor. This was our dynamic. When I was 19, I spent 2 weeks repairing the engine of my father's vintage truck, and Connor told the neighbors he had financed the restoration. When my mother needed emergency dental surgery, I paid the bill, but Connor was the one who held her hand in the recovery room, telling her not to worry about the cost because he took care of it. Whenever I tried to correct the narrative, my father would sigh and tell me to stop being so competitive. Whenever I stayed quiet, Connor treated my silence as an endorsement of his fiction. The ugly truth was that I kept hoping my generosity would eventually buy the one thing I couldn't seem to earn, my parents' uncomplicated pride. I wanted just one family vacation where I wasn't compared to Connor, corrected by my father, or treated as an afterthought. So, I had paid the non-refundable cabin deposit and authorized my platinum card for the resort's incidentals, including the premium 5-day lift passes, equipment rentals, and catered room service. The original plan was perfect. Then Connor took over. He invited Aunt Linda and Uncle Dave without asking me. He emailed the resort concierge, acting as the host, and requested top-shelf liquor to be stocked in the fridge. Each time the concierge copied me on an email, Connor had already replied. When I called the property manager, a sharp, observant woman named Sarah, to ensure no additional charges could be finalized without my consent, she apologized and flagged the account. Connor wanted the authority and the worship of being the patriarch, without sacrificing a single dollar of his own. The night we arrived in Aspen, the air was bitterly cold, but the cabin was a warm sanctuary. Connor immediately claimed the master suite. He assigned the 2nd bedroom to our aunt and uncle, and the 3rd to our parents. When I picked up my bag and headed toward the 4th bedroom, Connor stepped in front of the door. "I need this room for my snowboards and my morning Zoom calls," he said. I reminded him that it was a bedroom, not a closet. He laughed, a short, mocking sound. "Don't be difficult, Marcus. You didn't contribute a penny to this trip. The couch pulls out. Be grateful you're even here." That was the moment the old family reflex took over the room. Everyone looked at me to see how gracefully I would absorb the disrespect. Mom smiled over her wine glass. Dad studied the label on a bottle of whiskey as though it contained the secrets of the universe. I could have pulled up my bank statement right then. I could have shown Aunt Linda the receipts, the emails, the endless stream of proof that Connor was a fraud. But a sudden, paralyzing question stopped me. If proof was the only language they respected, Why was I still setting myself on fire to keep people warm who had already decided I wasn't worth a real bed? I looked at Connor, then at my mother. Who do you believe paid for this week? I asked calmly. My mother looked startled. Connor scoffed before she could answer. Please, he said. You probably used your corporate miles to get your flight and now you expect a parade. Just take the couch, Marcus. My father finally looked up, his voice dripping with exhaustion. Marcus, please, let's not ruin the first night. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my bag. I felt a strange, chilling clarity wash over me, colder than the snow falling outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. You're right, I said. Connor blinked, clearly expecting an argument. I shouldn't take up space I didn't pay for. My mother let out a relieved breath, believing I had surrendered. I picked up my bag, turned around, and walked out the front door into the freezing night. Connor called after me, telling me to stop being dramatic, but I didn't look back. I walked a half-mile down the illuminated, snow-covered path to the resort's main lodge. Sarah was at the concierge desk, reviewing arrival manifests. I asked her if the incidentals and the lift passes had been charged yet. She said no, the authorization would convert the next morning when the passes were activated. I told her to remove my card from the folio entirely. I explained that I would absorb the non-refundable cost of the cabin itself, but I was canceling the $5,000 hold for the ski passes, the equipment rentals, the dining credits, and the room service. Sarah looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. She warned me that the remaining balance for the amenities would become due immediately upon use, and without a card on file, the resort would deny all services. I understand, I said. Consider the cabin my parting gift, but I will not finance the rest of this trip. She asked if I wanted her to notify the party. No, I replied. Let the system notify them. I booked a single room for myself at a different hotel on the other side of town, turned off my phone, and slept in a king-sized bed. The next morning, the sky was a brilliant, blinding blue. I sat at a coffee shop near the base of the mountain, nursing a black coffee, watching the gondola line. At 9:15 a.m., I saw them. Connor, dressed in brand-new, expensive snow gear, was leading my parents, my aunt, and my uncle toward the VIP scanner line. He looked like a king leading his court. He stepped up to the RFID gate and bumped his jacket against the scanner. A sharp buzz echoed in the crisp air. The light flashed red. Connor laughed, patted his pocket, and tried again. Red. He signaled for the attendant, visibly annoyed. The attendant scanned the pass with a handheld device and shook his head. From my vantage point behind the cafe window, I watched Connor storm over to the main ticketing office, the rest of the family trailing behind him like confused ducklings. I finished my coffee, walked out into the cold, and entered the ticketing office just as Connor was raising his voice at the clerk. I am the host of this trip, Connor demanded, slamming his fist on the counter. There is a mistake on my account. Activate these passes immediately. The clerk typed on his keyboard. Sir, the passes were disabled because the payment method on file was revoked last night. The cardholder, Marcus Vance, canceled the authorization for all lift tickets, rentals, and room charges. The outstanding balance to activate these 5 passes is $2,800. Connor froze. The color instantly drained from his face. My mother gasped, stepping forward. Marcus? She said, confused. That's impossible, Connor snapped, his voice trembling slightly. I paid for this. Actually, sir, the clerk said, turning the monitor slightly. The original booking, the deposit, and all initial authorizations are strictly under Marcus Vance's name. You are listed only as a guest. Furthermore, your email requests for premium alcohol were flagged and denied last night due to lack of financial authorization. The silence in the ticketing office was absolute. Aunt Linda and Uncle Dave stared at Connor, their expressions shifting from confusion to dawning horror. I stepped forward, the snow crunching beneath my boots. They all turned to look at me. My father's jaw was clenched. Marcus, what did you do? My father demanded. Not what did they say to me. Not why did I leave. What did I do? I stopped paying for a vacation I was told I hadn't contributed to, I said, my voice steady and loud enough for the room to hear. Connor claimed he bought this trip. I'm just letting him pay for it. Connor's face flushed a deep, ugly red. You can't do this. You're abandoning us with this bill. No, I replied, looking directly into his panicked eyes. It's your bill. You wanted the credit, Connor. You wanted everyone to think you were the generous provider while you shoved me onto a couch and called me a freeloader. Ownership comes with a price. Pay the clerk. My father lowered his voice, stepping toward me. This is a family vacation. You are ruining Christmas, Marcus. Just put your card down and we will deal with this later. I am not ruining Christmas, I said, the years of suppressed anger finally bleeding into my words. I paid $15,000 for that cabin so we could be together. I bought the flights. I bought the passes. I did everything I have always done. And what I got in return was humiliation. My job as Connor's secret ATM and this family's punching bag ended last night. Aunt Linda stepped away from my mother. Wait, she said, her voice sharp. Connor, you told us you paid for this. You even asked Dave and me to pitch in $500 for groceries last month. You took our money? Connor stumbled backward, his carefully constructed reality shattering into pieces. It was for extras, he stammered, looking frantically between my aunt and my parents. Marcus he has more disposable income. It's not a big deal. Give them the card, Connor, Uncle Dave said, his voice dangerously low. Connor pulled his sleek, metal credit card from his wallet and handed it to the clerk with a shaking hand. The clerk swiped it. The machine thought for a moment, then beeped. Declined. Connor offered another card. Declined again. The silence that followed was suffocating. It stripped away the illusion Connor had spent a decade polishing. He wasn't the successful, generous son. He was a fraud standing in borrowed clothes, trying to pay with empty accounts. My mother looked devastated. She looked at Connor, waiting for him to magically fix it, but he just stared at the floor. Then she looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. Marcus, please, she whispered. The cabin is paid for through the week, I said quietly. You have a roof over your heads. But the skiing, the food, the luxury, that's on the host. I turned and walked out of the ticketing office. Nobody followed me. I spent the next 4 days actually enjoying Aspen. I skied alone, ate at fantastic restaurants, and ignored the 32 frantic text messages in the family group chat. The fallout was catastrophic, but it happened without my labor. Aunt Linda demanded her money back. My father had to dip into his retirement savings to pay for groceries and basic lift tickets for the week. Connor was forced to confess his massive credit card debt to my parents. The illusion was dead. 2 weeks after we all returned home, my mother came to my house. She stood in my kitchen, looking older and incredibly tired. She apologized. She admitted that she had favored Connor because his loud demands for attention felt like love, while my quiet competence made her feel like I didn't need her. She treated my independence as permission to take me for granted. I accepted her apology, but I didn't offer her comfort. I told her that our relationship would never return to what it was. I would not attend family events organized by Connor, and I would never again combine my finances with the family. Connor didn't speak to me for 6 months. When he finally did, it was a brief, uncomfortable phone call where he mumbled an apology about letting his pride get the better of him. I told him I heard him, but I didn't say it was okay. Forgiveness is a quiet, slow thing, and I was in no rush. People ask me sometimes if I regret losing the money I spent on that cabin. I never do. Every time I think about walking out of that cedar-scented room and into the freezing snow, I don't think about the thousands of dollars I left behind. I think about the moment I finally stopped shivering in the cold shadow of my brother's ego and realized I had the power to light my own fire.